She thought you would beg because maybe the old version of you would have stared at the phone at midnight, typing something, deleting it, typing again, trying to find the perfect words that would make her remember you. The old version of you would have checked her stories just to see if she looked happy without you. The old version of you would have asked mutual friends if she mentioned your name. The old version of you would have sent one more paragraph, one more apology, one more explanation, one more emotional message disguised as closure. But this time you did not. You became silent. And that silence is not hurting because you are trying to punish her. It is powerful because it shows something she did not expect. It shows that pain did not make you lose your dignity. It shows that heartbreak did not turn you into a beggar. It shows that even though you cared, even though you missed her, even though a part of you wanted to reach out, you still had enough self respect to stop chasing someone who was not choosing you clearly. That is where the real shift begins because most men think the moment she pulls away is the most important moment. It is not. The most important moment is what you do after she pulls away. That is when she sees the real condition of your emotional control. That is when she sees whether your love is strong or needy. That is when she sees whether your silence is self respect or just waiting. That is when you see yourself too, because when she leaves, gets cold, chooses distance, or acts like she does not care, your heart wants to do something immediately. It wants to fix, it wants to explain, it wants to prove, it wants to remind her of the good times, it wants to ask why she changed. It wants to send that message that says, I just want to understand. But be honest, most of the time, you do not want understanding. You want relief. You want the pain to stop. You want the anxiety to calm down. You want the silence to break. You want one sign that you still matter. You want one reply that makes your chest feel normal again. And that is where men lose power. They do not lose power because they love. They lose power because they let pain lead their behavior. A man does not regain respect by chasing. He regains power by staying calm when everything inside him wants to react. He regains power by stepping back when fear tells him to move closer. He regains power by controlling his emotions, rebuilding his life, and letting his actions speak louder than his words. She thought you would beg, but you became silent instead. Not because you stopped caring, because you finally started caring about yourself too. That is the difference. A weak man begs because he thinks losing her means losing himself. A grounded man steps back because he understands that chasing someone who walked away will not rebuild respect. It will only prove that his peace is still controlled by her choices. And maybe she knew if she got cold, you would become warmer. If she delayed a reply, you would send another text. If she pulled back, you would move forward. If she became distant, you would become anxious. If she gave less, you would give more. You thought you were showing love. But often, you were showing fear of losing her, fear of being replaced, fear of being forgotten, fear that if you stopped trying, she would disappear forever. But here's the truth that changes a man. If something only survives because you keep chasing it, it is not standing on mutual effort. It is standing on your fear. And once you understand that, you stop begging for what should be mutual. You stop trying to convince someone to see your value. You stop turning every silence into a crisis. You stop making her mood the center of your day. You stop acting like her distance is the final judgment of your worth. That is not bitterness, that is maturity. Because silence from bitterness says, I hope this hurts her. Silence from self respect says, I will not keep hurting myself. There is a difference. One still belongs to her, the other belongs to you. If your silence is only about making her miss you, she still controls the silence. If your silence is only about making her regret it, she still controls the silence. If your silence is only about waiting for her to come back, she still controls the silence. Real silence is different. Real silence says, I am no longer available for a connection that makes me abandon myself. That is the silence she did not expect. Because maybe she expected anger. Maybe she expected begging. Maybe she expected drama. Maybe she expected a long emotional message. Maybe she expected you to keep reaching until she finally felt secure enough to ignore you again, but you did not. You went quiet, and not the weak kind of quiet where a man says nothing but checks everything. You went quiet with your energy. You stopped watching, you stopped asking, you stopped orbiting, you stopped trying to prove that you were okay. You stopped making every post a hidden message. You stop making every night a courtroom where you argue with yourself about whether you should reach out. That is when silence becomes powerful, because no contact is not just the absence of words, it is the return of your attention. Your attention is your power. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. If your attention is always on her, your energy feeds the wound. If your attention is on her story, her mood, her new followers, her possible regret, her possible return, her possible feelings, then your life is still orbiting around her. That is not freedom. Freedom is when your body gets your attention again, your work gets your attention again, your sleep gets your attention again, your discipline gets your attention again, your future gets your attention again, your faith gets your attention again, your own peace gets your attention again. That is how a man starts coming back to himself. And that is the part she never expected. She may have expected you to stop texting for a few days. She did not expect you to stop needing. She may have expected you to act strong. She did not expect you to become strong. She may have expected you to go silent as a tactic. She did not expect you to use silence as a doorway back into your own life. That is the deeper truth behind this. Now, let us talk about the mistake most men make after she leaves. They try to rescue the connection alone. They think if they can explain better, she will understand. If they can apologize more, she will soften. If they can show more love, she will remember. If they can prove they are different from other men, she will come back. So they start over functioning. They text first. They ask what happened. They explain their feelings. They send long messages. They apologize even when they are not sure what they did wrong. They check her social media. They watch for signs. They turn one woman's silence into a full time job. And every time they do that, they feel weaker because chasing does not create peace, it creates dependence. The more you chase, the more her response becomes your medicine. If she replies warmly, you feel alive. If she replies coldly, you collapse. If she does not reply, your mind spirals. If she posts something, you overthink it. If she seems happy, you compare yourself. If she seems sad, you hope it is about you. That is no way for a man to live. When your emotional state depends on someone else's behavior, you have handed away your center. A man must have a center. Your center cannot be her reply. Your center cannot be her mood. Your center cannot be whether she misses you. Your center cannot be whether she regrets leaving. Your center has to be your own standards, your discipline, your purpose, your faith, your body, your work, your direction. When you have a center, her silence may hurt you, but it does not own you. That is masculine control. And control is not about controlling her, it is about controlling yourself. Now imagine the man sitting alone late at night. He has been strong all day. He worked, he trained, he told himself he was done. Then night comes. The room gets quiet. His phone is close. The memories start returning. He remembers how she used to look at him, how she used to talk to him, how she once made him feel wanted, how she once seemed so sure. Then he remembers the coldness, the distance, the replies that got shorter, the way she stopped making effort, the way he felt himself becoming smaller just to keep the connection alive. His chest gets tight. His mind starts negotiating. Maybe I should just say one thing. Maybe she is waiting for me. Maybe she thinks I do not care. Maybe this silence is pushing her away forever. Maybe I should ask for closure. But deep down, he knows the truth. He does not want closure. He wants another chance. He wants relief. He wants her to reply in a way that makes the pain stop. This is the moment where a man is built or broken. Because pain will always offer you weak solutions. Pain says, text her. Discipline says, wait until you are calm. Pain says, check her story. Self respect says, do not feed the wound. Pain says, ask a friend about her. Strength says, stop outsourcing your peace. Pain says, if beg one more time. Wisdom says, if begging worked, you would not be here. That is the battle. And every time you choose not to obey the emotional urge, you rebuild self trust. You said you would not chase, and you did not chase. You said you would not check, and you did not check. You said you would not beg, and you did not beg. That is how confidence comes back. Confidence is not built by telling yourself you are confident. Confidence is built by keeping promises to yourself when your emotions are loud. That is why silence can become strength. Not because it guarantees she comes back, but because it proves you can lead yourself when your heart is hurting. Now understand why begging destroys attraction and respect. When a man begs, he is not just asking for love, he is saying, your choice determines my worth. When a man overtexts, he is not just communicating, he is saying, I cannot sit with uncertainty. When a man checks her stories every night, he is not just curious, he is saying, I am still living in your world. When a man apologizes again and again just to keep her from leaving, he is not showing maturity, he is showing fear. And fear is heavy. A woman can feel when a man is trying to hold himself together through her attention. She can feel when he is not grounded. She can feel when he is chasing not from love but from panic. She can feel when he is trying to force connection because he cannot handle the pain of letting go. That pressure does not create respect, creates distance. Even if she cares, pressure makes her pull back, and if she already lost respect, begging confirms it. That is why silence must come from self respect, not from games. If you go silent just to make her panic, that is still neediness. If you go silent to punish her, that is still emotional reaction. If you go silent while counting the hours until she breaks, that is still chasing. But if you go silent because your peace matters, that is different. If you go silent because you refuse to keep explaining yourself to someone who is not meeting you with effort, that is different. If you go silent because you need to rebuild your life, that is different. If you go silent because you are done abandoning yourself for someone else's uncertainty, that is different. That silence has dignity, and dignity is remembered. A woman may forget some words, but she remembers how a man reacts when he loses her. She remembers if he begged. She remembers if he attacked. She remembers if he insulted her. She remembers if he cried for attention online. She remembers if he chased after she made her choice. But she also remembers if he stayed calm. She remembers if he did not fold. She remembers if he did not become bitter. She remembers if he gave her space and walked back into his own life. She remembers the man who did not turn pain into weakness. That does not mean she will always come back. There are no fake guarantees here, but whether she comes back or not, you become a man you can respect. And that is the highest goal because getting her back is not the real victory. Getting yourself back is. Now, here is the practical reset. For the next 7 days, do not message her first from panic. Do not check her stories. Do not ask mutual friends about her. Do not post to get her attention. Do not make emotional decisions at night. Do not reread old messages until your chest hurts. Do not send a soft message when what you really want is reassurance. Put that energy into training, work, money, sleep, discipline, faith, emotional control, and rebuilding your identity. Train your body even when your mind is heavy. Clean your room even when your emotions feel messy. Fix your sleep because tired men make weak decisions. Eat properly because heartbreak drains your focus. Walk when anxiety hits, brought what you want to say, but do not send it from panic. Put your phone away before midnight. Build your day before your emotions build it for you. This is not about pretending you do not care. It is about proving that her silence does not own you. Every time you choose discipline, the old version of you loses power. The version that chased loses power. The version that begged loses power. The version that checked loses power. The version that waited loses power. The version that made her attention, your whole identity loses power. And a stronger man begins to appear. A man who can feel pain without obeying it. A man who can care without chasing. A man who can miss her without begging. A man who can stay silent without secretly waiting. A man who can love deeply and still protect his peace. That man is hard to manipulate. That man is hard to replace. That man is hard to pull back into chaos. Now, rebuilding your life is not optional. Because if you only stay silent but do nothing with your life, the silence becomes torture. Your mind will circle her all day. Your body will feel heavy. Your confidence will shrink. Your imagination will create stories. You will start wondering what she is doing, who she is with, whether she thinks about you, whether she misses you, whether she regrets it. That is why you need motion. Motion is medicine. Train your body not to make her regret. To remind yourself you are alive, build your money, not to impress her, to give yourself options and strength. Fix your routine, not to look unbothered, to become stable, deepen your faith or inner discipline, not to perform peace. To actually find peace, work on your emotional control, not so she sees it. So you stop being controlled by every wave of feeling. This is how you turn heartbreak into growth, not by hating her, not by trying to make her jealous, not by making revenge your personality, but by becoming a man who is better because he refused to stay broken. That is the kind of transformation that speaks louder than any message. And if she hears about you later, if she sees you later, if she feels your absence later, let it be real. Let it be the natural result of you rebuilding, not a performance, because fake growth is still about her. Real growth belongs to you. Fake growth says, I hope she sees this. Real growth says, I need this for my future. Fake growth posts for attention. Real growth works in silence. Fake growth wants applause. Real growth wants peace. Choose real growth. Now, if she reaches out again, this is where you must be careful. Because many men survive the silence, but they do not survive her return. They finally stop chasing. They finally get some peace. They finally start rebuilding. Then her name appears on the phone, and the old man wakes up in 1 second. He replies too fast. He writes too much. He asks if she missed him. He tries to force clarity immediately. He pours months of pain into one conversation. He acts like he was waiting the whole time. And she feels it. She feels that his silence was not transformation, it was waiting. Do not be that man. A small message is not a full return. A hey is not accountability. And I miss you is not change behavior. A late night text is not emotional maturity. A story view is not love. A woman touching the door is not the same as a woman walking through it with clarity. If she says, hey, you can say, hey, hope you're doing well. That is enough. If she says, I miss you, you can say, I hear you. What made you reach out? If she says, I've been thinking about us, you can say, I understand. What do you want to do with that? If she says, can we talk? You can say, we can talk, but I am not rushing back into anything. These are not games. They are calm boundaries. They show openness without desperation. They invite clarity without begging. They protect your peace without attacking her. A real return can handle patience. A fake return usually cannot. If she genuinely wants to reconnect, she will respect your pace. If she only wants emotional access, she may disappear when she realizes you are not easy anymore. Let that happen. You need truth more than temporary comfort, because comfort can pull you back into the same cycle that broke you. Now, if she says you changed, do not become defensive. You can say, I had to. The old version of me kept losing himself. If she says you do not care anymore, you can say, I care, but I am not chasing confusion anymore. If she says you went silent like I meant nothing, you can say, I stepped back because I needed peace. That is enough. Do not over explain. Do not defend your growth for an hour. Do not let guilt drag you back into a place your self respect already left. A man with a center speaks clearly, then watches behavior, because behavior gives you information. If she respects your boundary, that is information. If she mocks it, that is information. If she takes accountability, that is information. If she only wants access without responsibility, that is information. Do not fear information. Fear ignoring it because fantasy feels better. Now, if she comes back with real maturity, do not punish her. This matters. Some men finally get their power back, then become arrogant. They act cold. They say things like, now you want me. They try to make her feel small because she hurt them. That is not strength. That is pain pretending to be power. A strong man does not need revenge to feel masculine. If she comes with clarity, listen. If she comes with humility, observe. If she comes with consistent effort, allow trust to build slowly. But do not rush. Forgiveness can happen in a moment. Trust takes time. Do not confuse the two. If she apologizes, receive it calmly, but watch behavior. If she says she misses you, hear it, but watch consistency. If she wants to talk, talk, but do not throw away your peace. That is how a mature man moves. Now, if she comes back with confusion, step back. If she says, I miss you, but I do not know what I want, do not become her emotional waiting room. If she says, I care, but I am not ready, do not give full access to uncertainty. If she reaches out at night but disappears in the morning, do not chase. If she wants comfort without responsibility, step back. A man with self respect does not build his peace on maybe. Maybe can have space. Maybe can have observation. Maybe does not get your whole heart. That is how you protect yourself. Now, let us be honest about what you really want. A part of you may want her to regret it. A part of you may want her to realize she lost a good man. A part of you may want her to feel the silence. A part of you may want her to come back and say, I was wrong. That is human. But do not let that become your mission. If your healing depends on her regret, she still controls your healing. If your confidence depends on her return, she still controls your confidence. If your peace depends on her missing you, she still controls your peace. A free man does not need revenge. He needs direction. He does not say, I hope she suffers. He says, I hope I never abandon myself like that again. That is the higher path. A weak man turns heartbreak into bitterness. A strong man turns heartbreak into standards. A weak man wants to make her feel pain. A strong man refuses to keep causing pain to himself. That is the difference, because the deepest damage was not only that she left, it was what you almost became trying to keep her, the overthinking, the checking, the begging, the apologizing for things that were not yours, the waiting, the comparison, the emotional hunger. The way one reply could lift you and one silence could destroy you, that is what has to end. Not because of her, because of you. You cannot keep living like your identity belongs to someone else's phone. You cannot keep letting one woman's distance make you question your entire worth. You cannot keep giving full access to people who only give you confusion. At some point, a man has to stand up inside himself and say, enough. Not in anger, in truth. Enough chasing, enough checking, enough begging, enough waiting, enough trying to prove myself to someone who knows what I gave, enough losing sleep over someone who chose distance, enough abandoning the man I am supposed to become. That moment is where transformation begins. Now, if she never comes back, you still win if you become the man this silence is creating. This is the part many men avoid because they want the story to end with her return. They want the message. They want the apology. They want proof that silence worked. They want the moment where she realizes she was wrong. Maybe that happens. Maybe it does not. But you cannot build your life around maybe. The highest proof is not her return. The highest proof is your peace. Can you sleep without her reply? Can you train without needing her to notice? Can you work without checking your phone every 10 minutes? Can you stop asking about her? Can you feel sadness without turning it into begging? Can you remember her without reopening the wound? Can you love deeply without losing your frame? That is success, because a man who can do that is no longer easy to break. He is harder to manipulate, harder to pull into chaos, harder to make insecure, harder to treat like an option, harder to replace with temporary attention. That man is attractive because he is not desperate for attraction. He has direction. And direction is one of the strongest things a man can have. A man with direction does not orbit around a woman's uncertainty. He has things to build, he has a body to strengthen, he has money to earn, he has skills to sharpen, he has faith to deepen, he has standards to protect. He has a future that does not pause because one person became unclear. That is real masculine power, not forcing her to miss you, not making her regret not playing games, becoming the man who no longer has to beg anyone to see his worth. So tonight, when your mind tells you to check if she feels it, do not check. When your ego wants proof that she misses you, do not search for proof. When your heart wants to send one small message, do not send from panic. When loneliness tells you to reopen a door that hurt you, breathe, put the phone down, stand up, drink water, walk, train, pray, work, sleep, build. Do one thing that makes tomorrow better, because discipline is how a man tells heartbreak, you can hurt me, but you cannot lead me. That is the man she did not expect, not the man who begged, not the man who folded, not the man who stayed silent only to wait, the man who hurt but stayed composed, the man who cared but did not abandon himself, the man who wanted her but did not make her return the measure of his worth, the man who turned silence into strength, pain into standards, and absence into direction. That man is hard to manipulate. That man is hard to replace. That man is free. So remember this. She thought you would beg for her back, but you became silent instead. Not because you are weak, not because you are playing games, not because you want revenge, because you finally understood that chasing someone who is not choosing you clearly is how a man loses himself. And you are done losing yourself. If she comes back, you do not rush. If she apologizes, you observe. If she brings clarity, you listen. If she brings confusion, you step back. If she never comes back, you keep walking. Because the deepest truth is this: the goal is not to make her regret losing you. The goal is to become a man who never regrets choosing himself. And in the next video, you will learn the quiet signs your silence is finally being felt and how to handle her return without giving away the power you worked so hard to rebuild.